Rebecca. I'm Mandy. It's amazing to have you here for the start of our direct action class. This first lecture is just going to be a sort of intro, right? I'm going to introduce myself. Carl will introduce himself. Brooke isn't able to be here right now, so you'll have to wait a little bit to meet Brooke, but you'll get to meet her as well. And we're just going to talk about ourselves, about Dark Times Academy, about the class, and go through some practicalities for you so that you are prepared to meet up with us later in the week. So to start, I'm Mandy. I live in Aotearoa, New Zealand, though I'm originally from the United States. I've been here in Aotearoa for 10 years now. And I was professionally a librarian for most of my career, though my undergraduate degree is in political science, and I worked as a librarian who worked on policy issues. So, working in government, working to influence government has been a core part of what I've done for a really long time. I have also been consistently involved in activism throughout my career. When I was in the United States, I did a fair bit of climate activism, both traditional protests as well as direct actions, including I was arrested in front of the White House with Bill McKibben. And then I was one of the founding members of the People's Library at Occupy Wall Street in Zuccotti Park in New York. So I've been doing activism for a really long time. And I have some thoughts and feelings about how we should be approaching it. And I'm really excited to hear from all of our guests about activism and about their thoughts around direct action and how to do it well, how to do it safely, and how to do it in a way that genuinely creates the outcome that we're looking for and that pushes us towards a better world. I am also a mother, including a foster parent. COVID brought lots of people, lots of things, and it brought me teenagers. So I take care of a lot of children. I am a potter, so I make pottery, mostly wheel thrown. And I paint as well. I do watercolor and gouache. And I think art is going to be one of the things that I hope we keep coming back to, and the importance of art, the value of art, and art as activism. Carl, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Carl. I'm from Minneapolis, Minnesota. I'm a sociologist, and as well as being a sociologist, I'm an activist too. And for a number of years, I've done on the ground photography and journalism during the George Floyd uprising here, and then after. But I'm kind of in the same place Mandy is on this, where I'm really interested to talk to a number of our speakers over the next couple months here because of both the kind of intellectual interest in how we do this correctly, but also what that means for what we can do going forward and how we can kind of imagine better. Part of my sociological work is looking at narratives and storytelling and the power that brings with it. So part of resistance is that. And so I'm really excited to kind of, sit with everyone else and have some questions for our presenters and kind of go through what I've my personal experiences, but also what we know to be true from kind of our collective personal experiences between Mandy, myself, and Brooke. Because between us, we've done this a couple times, different ways, very different ways across the board. So it's kind of, I'm looking forward to being able to kind of bring all of that together. And I, like Mandy too, I'm an artist. I paint and I draw. So I think that's going to be a fun way for all of us to kind of take a different look at what resistance and different kinds of thinking about resistance can look like.
Awesome. Thank you, Carl. So, to give you a sense of what Dark Times Academy is and sort of what we're all about, I thought I would just do a quick rundown. I haven't actually looked to see if we have all new students in this class or if we have some repeat students. But I ran an NGO called Toa Toha for a long time, for 8 years. And when the New Zealand government moved to being a far right government, funding was no longer an option for us. And so I really wanted to continue doing the work that I had been there. And what I really wanted to explore was how we can do important political education work without needing to be reliant on unreliable and awful government funders, philanthropic funders who often have their own agendas, and grants. The grant cycle is absolutely destructive to any NGO. And being trapped on that grant cycle creates stress for NGO employees. It creates uncertainty in programming, and it really ends up influencing an enormous amount of the day-to-day work. So what I wanted was to explore other models for funding it while still making sure that the work was getting done. So that's a lot of what Dark Times Academy is about. And it's also about continuing the work of education and making sure that education has a core part of the movement for a better world. I think that a lot of the institutions that should be able to provide that right now, particularly universities, but also places like museums and public libraries, are not able to do that in the current environment. So I wanted to create an institution and an organization that could provide that education without being beholden or worried about either government or other funders. We've certainly had our issues with the far right, Byron and I have over the years. And what are they going to do? Write a letter to our bosses complaining? They can't do that because we're our own bosses. I should mention Byron, who's not here right now. Byron Clark is he's from Aotearoa. He's an author of an amazing book about the New Zealand far right called Fear. And he also is an IT guy. So he is my partner in this business, and he makes sure that all of the technology works, that we have a website, and that our Moodle site is working. So Byron's not here today because he is at his regular day job and he won't be around in class. But he is nonetheless a core and very, very important part of all of this. So to move in to sort of this particular class and why we're doing a class on direct action. Carl, do you want to start there and then I can continue?
Sure. It when we first kind of talked about this, we had brought together some ideas and some different thoughts, and that was kind of as the direct aftermath of the election had happened. And so we kind of came to a point where we realized that there is a lot of conversation about what is happening in the moment and the different ways that fascism are affecting all of us. And there wasn't much explanation of what can be done both as individuals and as you organize up into a movement. And so we kind of thought through what we might want kind of in a dream situation for that to be kind of as a structure for what we could kind of imagine for a class. And that turned into what we are doing now with this group of speakers, bringing together everything from far right and fascist researchers and different scholars kind of around that area to people more around climate actions. And then the hope with the class is kind of to be able to have an ongoing conversation that includes those things but looks more to how we can imagine different things, build different structures, kind of as individuals and as groups to start to counter the weight of that authoritarian threat, right? And that is something that's replicatable in a bunch of different situations. Again, because we're going to be hearing from so many different voices from different parts of the spectrum. There's something kind of for everyone there where we can bring in different ways of dealing with subjects that people might have not thought about before and bring them over to somewhere where they might be useful that they haven't been trying.
That sounds awesome, Carl. So for my part, I really wanted to focus on both direct action and also organizations and people who have been active in planning and carrying out direct actions. We haven't released much of a list of our speakers yet. We'll talk about that in class, in part because we have folks who do need to be protected and do need to be kept safe. So we didn't want to put them in harm's way by sort of blasting their names and their organization names everywhere. But we're really strongly interested in folks who are doing the work right now and taking lessons from what they have done, what they have learned, so that we can think about ways to apply it to our own activism. And if we're not currently doing activism, um, ways in which we can apply it in the future, and ways in which we can support those who are really on these front lines in all of these various battles that we have going on right now, which are growing by the day, tragically and unfortunately. So that's sort of, from my perspective, why I wanted to focus on direct action. I think direct action also is a really good sort of organizing point for a class like this because it does have that core of effectiveness. It doesn't necessarily have to be something that is illegal. It doesn't have to be something that is dangerous. But direct action is often incredibly effective. And effectiveness is something that we all need right now, not to be sort of weirdly neoliberal about it. I think that word has been eaten and abused by neoliberals, but nonetheless, we want our action to work, right? We want to know that the thing that we're doing has a chance of contributing to building that better world. So that's what this class is going to be about. On a practical level, there are a few things that I should go through now. Carl, do you want to add anything about direct action before we get into the practicalities?
Just that there are a whole host and kind of spectrum of different things that fall under that title. And I think that that's part of why doing a class like this was important, because I think when people hear direct action, they think one thing when it's so many more. And there's so many different ways to have direct impacts on what we're all dealing with and what that's going to look like going into the future, as we do have to kind of think more about, more direct encroachment from differing parts of this kind of situation we're all dealing with, whether it's fascism here or the far right in other places.
Awesome. So, on a practical level, what we're going to do each week for the class is you will get a video ahead of time, like this one, that will generally be an interview with our guest. I think I've done most of those interviews, if not all of those interviews. So, it'll be me interviewing a guest. And we'll also provide you with a link to either writings from the guest, if the guests have been writing publicly, or work or links and writings about the actions that they have conducted from the media, depending on the guest and sort of what their body of work looks like will vary a lot for each week, depending on what you end up seeing in that list of readings, writings, speaking, that sort of stuff. I will have, by the time you are looking at this, sent you a calendar invite that includes a Zoom link that you'll be able to follow. We will be using Zoom, we'll be using Moodle, and we'll be using Signal, and as well as email in this class. If you are not comfortable with technology, if technology makes you a little bit nervous, let us know. We do one-on-one tech support sessions with students. Byron runs those. So if you feel nervous about the tech, reach out and we can get one of those scheduled, and Byron can walk you through everything so that you're comfortable using it. We will set up a Signal group. If you are not already on Signal, we will help you get on Signal. Signal is wonderful. It is easy to use. It is as safe and protected as any messaging app can be. So we will help you get set up with it, and then we can share ideas, thoughts, readings that we run into, all of that stuff on that Signal group between classes. Material will also be posted to Moodle each week. Byron handles that, so you'll be able to get a Moodle link and go in and download stuff there, and that will remain available to you indefinitely. So let's see, is there anything else I need to say about practicalities? I think those are all of our practicalities right now. Anything to add to that, Carl?
No, that sounds like everything I was going to say.
Excellent. Perfect. So two other things that we should talk about with this particular recording. One is project ideas. So I have been doing classes like this for a fair amount of time now. This is my only real job, although I'm also a potter. So if you want a mug, hit me up. I got mugs. But the idea of doing a project together has sort of a couple of different motivations behind it. One is that it ensures that we don't fall down in despair and we feel like we are doing something. It doesn't have to be a big, complex project. It can be something small, but something so that we feel that the class was real, it existed, and we made some kind of impact in the world. So some ideas that I have, the biggest project that I've ever done as part of a class like this was back when we still had funding, when I was working for Toa Toha. And that was we took the Euphorigin investigation online escape room that was put together by the folks at the University of Washington Center for an Informed Public, and we converted it into a New Zealand-based and focused print escape room that was distributed to New Zealand school libraries. It was awesome. We don't have that kind of budget these days, but something like, we could do um, a project like fiction writing. We could create some zines. We could make some signs. We could do some visual art. Or we could try and make a simple game. We'll talk about it when we're together in class and see what sort of motivates people. No one has to be involved in it, right? Like no one's getting graded for this. But we did want to give people something to sort of center around and think about so that people didn't feel sort of sad and like they weren't actually doing much. So we can talk about that more in class. I do like the idea of us doing something in the visual art world, but that just depends on you and sort of what you guys are into. And, we can talk about it more in class. The other thing we should talk about is what we're going to do when we actually come together for our first class. And what Carl and I were talking and what we thought might be fun would be if you could bring to our first class some kind of visual art, or, it could be an audio piece, so music is fine, but some kind of an artwork that is meaningful and valuable to you as an activist and has inspired you, that you feel maybe represents the kind of world that you want to live in and why you do activism. Just bring some amazing, beautiful, glorious art. And when we go through and we do our introductions, you can talk about your art and share it. It can be something that you've made yourself. It can be something that someone else has made. And yeah, so that will give us a good sense of who you are and what's important to you. Carl, do you want to add anything?
No, I think that's everything I was thinking of. I think seeing and hearing and kind of understanding people through their art is a great way to kind of get to know people, and it's a great way too to start to think about kind of what this class is, because resisting fascism, resisting authoritarianism doesn't look like what I think a lot of people think it does. So, that was kind of the hope with the beginning of this, because it's a good way to start out for people.
If there's one thing I believe in, it's that action and resistance are based on care for each other. They are based on beauty. It is based on living that world that we want to see, right? Living our values and living as though we were already in that world as much as possible. So
Yep.
thank you so much. And I really can't wait to meet everyone in class later this week. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your week, and I will see you all soon. Carl?
Have a good one, y'all. Can't wait to see you on Thursday.
Fabulous. See you soon.
Bye.